This is the 2022 Kia Carnival, and it's powered by a 3.5-liter V6 engine. On top of that, it's available as either a 7 or an 8-seat configuration. Steve here, Cars with Steve, and before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to Durham Kia for giving me access to this vehicle to shoot the video for you today. Check down in the description below for their contact details. Now this is going to be a quick walk around looking at some of the basics: horsepower, torque, first, second, third row spacing, cargo dimensions, and things like that. If you're looking for a little bit more of an in-depth look specifically at the technology, like how that media screen works, check down below because I have put together a comprehensive video on that as well. But let's dive into it, have a little bit of fun, and see what's going on with the 2022 Carnival. Now, starting off with some exterior styling. So the styling of this thing is fairly unique. It's like Kia decided that they wanted to make a van without actually making a van. So it's a kind of an interesting design choice, but it does work for what they're accomplishing with this vehicle. Looking at the actual tires themselves, we've got two different options depending on the trim level of the vehicle that we're in. It's either going to be a 17-inch tire or a 19-inch tire, like what we're looking at here. Because we're in the EX Premium version of the vehicle, so the EX Plus, we do have Continental rubber on this one with this unique rim. And that's going to be dependent, again, on which trim level of the vehicle you're looking at. But as we start to move forward, one of the nice things about the Carnival is that we do have LED headlamps, and that's going to be standard across the entire vehicle lineup. And we do have our fog lamps down below as well. Now, depending on which trim level of the vehicle you're looking at, like this specific one does have that forward-facing camera as well, which means that we've got a full 360 view. Now, that 360 camera goes in tandem with the front camera. We've got some cameras underneath the side view mirrors, and then we've got our backup camera as well, which stitched together gives us that full view. All right, now taking a peek underneath the hood of the Carnival. So, this thing is powered by a 3.5-liter V6 engine, so a naturally aspirated to non-turbocharged engine. And there is only one available engine choice for the Kia Carnival. From a power perspective, this thing is going to be able to push out 290 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. So plenty of power when it comes down to it, and this underneath the hood actually looks incredible. Like nice and clean as well. Kia did opt for the cover in this thing also, just to kind of hide some of those components, just to make it a little bit cleaner looking. One of the nice things is that we do have easy access to some things, so we can easily top up our fluids if we need to. We can easily check our oil, and then we've also got easy access to the battery. As we jump into the back of the vehicle, so we've got our Kia logo along the very top, Carnival badge along the bottom left-hand side. Now, a few things that are going to be standard regardless of the trim level that you look at. We do have our rear wiper that's kind of hidden right underneath the top lip there. We've got our backup camera, which is also going to be standard, as well as a reverse sensing system, so that park sensing system. Now, we do have the flexibility of being able to turn that beeping off if it drives you nuts, but it is nice to know that we've got some great technology standard inside of this vehicle. Now, this specific one doesn't have the tow package, or it doesn't have a hitch, I should say, but we do have that option. And when we get the hitch, whether we install that aftermarket through the dealership, whatever the case may be, this vehicle is going to be able to tow up to 3,500 pounds. Next up, taking a peek at the key fob of the vehicle. So great look when it comes down to it. We've got our typical Kia styling there, new Kia logo along the very bottom. On the top, we've got a remote start. We can also power open both of the side doors, so those second row doors. All we're going to literally do is press and hold. Now, if yours doesn't have those power doors, obviously those buttons wouldn't be there. Looking along the side of the fob, we've got our lock button, our unlock button, our trunk release, our horn or panic alarm button, and then there's also the emergency access key, so we can easily access that there. Now, remote starting the vehicle is very straightforward. All we want to make sure we do is lock the vehicle first, and then we're literally just going to press and hold on the fob. So as you can see there, the vehicle has remote started. In order to be able to cancel the remote start, all you're going to do is press that circle button again there once. So remote start is now canceled. You know, getting inside of the trunk of the vehicle is also a very straightforward process. So if we take a peek at the key fob, so we do have a button there in order to be able to get inside. So we would literally just press and hold that button if we wanted to get inside of the trunk. If you had the smart liftgate feature enabled, if the key fob was in your pockets, you could literally just walk up to the back of the vehicle a few seconds later and the liftgate will literally lift up for you as well, which is definitely a nice thing. And then if we look, so just along the very bottom there, we also do have a button. So we can press that button as well in order to get that power liftgate up. All right, now cargo dimensions for the vehicle are going to be showing up. And one of the nice things about the Kia Carnival is that we do have stowable seats. So these third row, we can actually fully stow them down if we wanted to. But we do have a ton of space in the back here. So we need to throw things like strollers, buggies, whatever the case may be. We've got quite a little bit of space in the back here before we have these seats folded down. So something to think about. But in order to actually be able to stow these things, it's also very straightforward. So firstly, what we're going to want to make sure we do is lower the headrests on both of the seats. And we've got a little pull lever there. So we're literally just going to pull, and that literally is going to fold the seat down. Gentle push, and it's locked into place. So we can do that both sides, so driver, passenger. fold seat down, but we've got a flat fold there as well. But look at the difference in the cargo dimensions when we've got that third row folded down in the stowable seats. So a lot of flexibility, and we've got quite a little bit of space when it comes down to it. Now, one other thing to note, I've got a few different dimensions that are showing up now as well. So very first one is going to be now from the stowable seat. So very bottom of the seat there to the very top loading area. There's going to be another one where we're just inside and we're going down from the very bottom there up to the very top because we got a couple extra inches of space when we fold it down that way as well. One other thing, this middle seat, you can literally take this whole thing out as well. So if you get the 8-passenger configuration, we've got a little tab along the bottom there. We can crank that in order to be able to lift the seat up, and we can easily pull the seat out as well. Now, these other seats are going to be locked into place, so the outboard seats, but the middle seat, we can absolutely remove it if we wanted to. All right, so look at the difference in the cargo dimensions when we've got that second row folded down. So as you can see there, because we've got that stowable seat, it does kind of play with what we can actually store in this thing when it's folded down. But it is nice to know that we've got some storage space. We've got quite a little bit of depth as well when it comes down to it. Now, we can literally just pull these things back up again as well if we need to create a little bit of a flatter back. So let's look at the cargo dimensions there when we do that. But I mean, at the end of the day, because this third row is stowable, I mean, it's going to depend on how much space you need. Do you need something that's fully flat or not? That's going to kind of dictate how you fold down this second and the third row. All right, now looking at some cargo area features. So we do have a little bit of storage space along the left side. So we've got quite a little bit of space in the back there, which is always a nice thing. We do have the option for a cargo tie down as well. So we've got some cargo netting, things like that, that we can easily install in the back here. But I am still blown away at how much space is actually in this third row. So in the cargo area there, I'm just going to pop my shoes off and hop on in. But literally, like, this is ridiculous. Like, there is so much space back here, which definitely a benefit, because if you're storing strollers and things like that and you need all that space, you've got a ton of cargo space in the back of this thing. Now, when it comes down to it, looking along the top, we do have a cabin control light along there, and we've got a few power points along the side. So we've got a traditional 12-volt port as well as a 100-watt power point. So our traditional wall outlet, so we can plug in quite a few things into the back of this thing. Now, looking at some standard technology inside the vehicle, so just right along the very top there, we can just kind of make it out, but we do have our hidden wiper along the top. We do have a backup camera that's also going to be standard. So is our reverse sensing system. So that's the one that's going to beep at us as we start to back up. Outside of that, other technology, we've got our blind spot system. So that blind spot system is going to let us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. And because of the trim level of the vehicle that we're in, we also do have our cameras there, so along the side, and there also is a front-facing camera. And what that means is that we've got a full 360 view as well as we go. So if we want to kind of see what's going on beside us, behind us, etc., we've got that option. We do have our front sensing system there as well, so we can just kind of make out those forward sensors. That is not going to be standard in the lower trim levels, but it is in some of the higher packages. Now, filling up fuel inside of the Carnival is also a very straightforward process, just along our driver's side door. So you can see we've got a lockable system there. Click, lock it back into place. Now, when it comes down to fuel quality, regular 87 octane, so 87 gas is all you need to use inside of this thing. But there's a little bit of a caveat to that. That's achieved using a premium fuel for the horsepower and the torque specs. So do you need to use a premium fuel? No, but you'll absolutely notice a difference if you do. So it's your call whether you decide to do that or not. It's ultimately going to depend on whether it's in your budget. But like I said, you still will get great performance out of this thing just using your regular 87 fuel instead. Right now, getting inside of the second row of the vehicle is also very straightforward. So if we look just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, there's a button there. We can open and close it that way. On the key fob, we've also got an option in order to power open and close there as well. Looking at the actual door, though, there's a little black button on both sides. We can literally just press that. Power doors. Look at this. Oh, now those power doors are going to be available in some trim levels of the vehicle. The higher ones, the base ones, you're typically not going to have that power door option. Let's have a peek inside. Now, in order to get into the third row of the vehicle, it's a very straightforward process. So just along the side there, we've got a series of different levers. Very first one, so along the backrest, that's going to be the one to actually get the seat forward. And then we do have the flexibility of being able to fold the seat down simply by pulling this lever up. But very straightforward, so literally all we're going to do is just crank this forward. Look at that, that's going to release. And we just slide this thing forward. Now, I'm 6 feet tall, but taking a look, I can easily hop in back of this thing as well. Looking at third row spacing. So I've got one of the captain's chairs set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. And I also have this middle chair pushed up a little bit. And that's one of the nice things is that because inside of the bench seat configuration, all 3 seats can move forwards or backwards independently of one another, which is definitely a good thing. But inside of this seat, with that second row seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall, I've still got a good amount of knee space. I've got a great amount of foot space. And up overhead, I've got about 1.5 inches roughly of head space when I'm fully upright. So definitely something to think about. If people are a little bit taller, you might have to get them sitting in that second row instead though. So something to think about there. But one of the cool things is that we also can recline this seat. And that's one nice thing because we can recline the third row. We can also recline that second row. So when I'm reclined back, and I'm super comfortable by the way inside of this thing, up overhead, I've got a little bit closer to about 3 inches of headspace before my head would potentially hit up overhead there. So definitely something to think about, but it is nice that we've got the flexibility to be able to recline that second and the third row. So it is kind of nice back here as well. We do have a few things. We've got a power point along our side, USB on both sides, and then we also do have a few smaller cup holders and a little bit of storage space there as well. We can also control what's going on with our fans, so we can literally close off those vents, and then we've got our cabin control lighting up there as well. Now, one other thing that's fairly unique to the Carnival is in this third row, we've got this adorable little cover. Like, it is so neat. Well, we can kind of block out a little bit of sun, and that's going to be for the same for that second and for the third row back here. Right now, looking at second row spacing inside of the Carnival. So I'm 6 feet tall. I've got the driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall, and I still have a great amount of knee room and a good amount of foot space as well. Up overhead, I've got about 4 inches of head space, so plenty of space when it comes down to it. Now, the Carnival is available either as a 7 or an 8 seat configuration, and this one we are looking at is the 8 seat configuration because we've got this bench seat. So when we get the 7 passenger, this seat's going to be gone, and it's just going to be an easier pass through in order to get to that third row. But it's not impossible to get in the back here. And one of the cool things is that if you've got a series of taller people, like I said, I still have quite a little bit of knee space. So each seat, when you get into the bench row, can literally be moved forwards and backwards as well. So we can create quite a little bit more space for the people that are in the back row as well, which is definitely a nice touch. And then one of the cool things about the bench seat is that these 3 seats can also be folded down individually. So we've literally got a little tab. We would just crank that up in order to be able to fold this thing down. So very straightforward. In the back now, we do have a few more cup holders there. We've got some cup holders in the front also. And then literally just going to crank this tab up again, pull it in order to be able to fold this thing back up. So very straightforward. Now looking at some other technology back here. So first and foremost, we do have a button in order to be able to open and close the side door. So power open, close. We can kind of stop partway through and we can get it open and closing as well. We do have a little shade, so we can easily install that one if we want to. I say easily as I'm struggling. Okay, so we can easily install this thing if we want to. We've got our door handle button there, we've got our lock, and then we've also got our window up and down. And along the second row doors, we do have a little bottle holder there as well, so we can store some things. Behind the driver passenger seat, we also do have a few small pockets. These things are fairly tight, so you're not going to get too much back there, but it is nice to know that it is there as an option. We've got a few USB ports in the back there as well, so tons of power, because if we look in the back of the armrest, we've got a few more power points as well. Now these ones, we've got a traditional wall outlet, so we've got 150 watt, no sorry, this is a 100 watt power point, and then we've also got a 12 volt power point there as well. So our traditional cigarette lighter adapters, we can throw those in there. Down a little bit more, we also do have a little storage area, so if we need to store some things, we could also easily do it here. So very straightforward there. Now, a few other things, because there, like I said, tons of things in the back of this, but moving up overhead, we do have a button along the top, and that's one of the neat things, because second row passengers now have the option of being able to change radio stations and things like that simply by pressing that button. But we do have the flexibility to be able to lock that thing out if we wanted to. There also is a little camera back here. So that's one of the interesting things, because you can figure out what's going on with folks in the back literally by pressing a button inside of that actual cluster, so inside of the digital screen, and that lets us know what's going on back here. So definitely useful if you want to see if the kids are kind of going crazy or what's going on in the back row. So it is nice that we've got that option. Looking along the passenger side, so up overhead here, we do have a series of climate control settings. So we've got our basics for our fan control. We can turn it off. We can have it go to our face or our feet, mixture of both. We've got an auto setting, and we can even control the temperature back here. So we are tri-zone climate control, which is definitely a nice thing. Along both passenger and driver side, we do have a handle, and then we also have a little hook as well. And then we've also got our basic vent control, as well as a few cabin lights overhead. Now looking along the driver's side door, so we do have a button there. We can literally press this button in order to be able to either lock or unlock the doors. So simple button press there. And when we go to unlock and lock, it's either going to power fold the side view mirrors or not. So it is nice to know that we've got that technology there. Hopping inside of the driver's seat. So really, really nice look when it comes down to it, but looking at some of the basics there along the driver's side door. So we can power fold our side view mirrors if we wanted to. We can adjust what's going on with our mirrors. We've got our window up and down, and then we can also kill off power to that second row as well. Looking along the side, so driver passenger side, we do also have a little bit of storage space along both doors. Just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, we can either increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. We can turn our lane keeping system on or off, and then we've got our traction control button. Down a little bit more, we do have the option of either opening and closing the second row doors, so we can hold these in order to power open or close. We can open and close the trunk, and then we've also got our basic button for the power door, so we can turn that one on or off if we want to. Big one there is just so that people in that second row can't press the button in order to be able to open the door up. All right, now, I gotta say, the initial look of this thing, absolutely beautiful, because we take a look and we've got a fully digital dash stretches across. We've got a beautiful media screen there as well. Now, one thing to note, the media screen inside of the base, so the LX trim level of the vehicle, is going to look different than it will in the EX and the higher trims as well. But it does have a very, very great look when it comes down to it, and it's fully digital across the entire dash. Like, this thing looks really, really cool. But there's a lot of features when it comes down to it. And one thing, this is just going to be a basic look and a walk around of not only the steering wheel as well as the instrument cluster and that media screen. So I'm going to be going over some basics, but if you're looking for a fuller walk around, check down in the description below because I have put together a comprehensive video on how these elements work. But let's look at some of the basics. So first and foremost, the actual seats themselves. So driver passenger seat in the front row are going to be a power adjust. Now in the driver's seat, slightly different than what you're going to find in the passenger seat, but I'll show you that in just a second. So driver's seat, we've got a series of different toggles along our left-hand side. First one is going to bring the seat forwards, backwards. We can go up and down with it. The next one is going to be for our backrest, so backwards and forwards. And then we've got one for our lumbar support, so a little bit of extra stability in our lower back. Now, one of the interesting things with the seat all the way down and back. There we go. Okay, so tons of room, and like when it's stretched out like that, like I've got like a crazy amount of headspace. Like I've got like 6, almost 7 inches of headspace up overhead, which is kind of a nice thing. Now that's one thing, because I'm 6 feet tall. So when I've got the driver's seat set up for somebody 6 feet tall, nice and comfortable, up overhead, same thing. Like I've got almost 6 inches of headspace. Like that is kind of ridiculous. So definitely nice to know. Taller people are absolutely going to be able to fit inside of this thing. Adjusting the steering wheel across the entire vehicle lineup is going to be a manual process. So just by our left knee, we've got a little lever there. We're just going to crank that down and it's telescopic. So in, out, up and down, perfect position, click it in order to lock it back into place. Now, looking at some of the other technology inside of this thing is kind of neat. When we get to the actual doors for the second row, they might be power, might be manual, depending on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. We've also got the flexibility of turning on our lane keeping system. So lane keeping system, we've got 2 different versions of it. The base one, essentially, think of it like bowling lanes. So you turn that one on. Once you hit a certain speed, if you start to veer over without signaling, the vehicle literally is going to gently kind of nudge you back into your lane. So literally those old school like bowling lanes that you saw when, just to make sure that you didn't get a gutter ball, it's essentially that idea. So you're kind of bouncing forward, back and forward between lanes. But there is one thing to note. The vehicle does need to recognize the lanes in order for that system to work. But having said that, we do have a lane keeping system as well. So that follow system, which is an infinitely better system. So that system itself is kind of neat because what that'll do is it'll literally keep you centered and balanced in your lane as you go. So it's following the vehicle that's in front of you using some of the cameras that are mounted in the front of the vehicle. So very smart system. And that's all tied together as part of the adaptive cruise control system as well. So the adaptive cruise control, looking in the pad on the right-hand side, is essentially your set it and forget it cruise. So you set it, let's say at 100 kilometers an hour on the highway. If the car in front of you slows down, yours is automatically going to brake. If they pick up speed or get out of the way, yours will resume your set speed as well. So great system there. We've got a few different buttons. So the one on the bottom left-hand side is going to be for that actual centering system. We've got a distance indicator, so how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us. And then we can turn the system on or off. Well, our buttons on the right-hand side there are going to let us adjust what's going on with the actual cluster screen, and it's kind of neat because we can kind of adjust some things. We've got our speedometer, tachometer showing as well, so we've got a little bit of flexibility there. Looking at the pad on the left-hand side, we've got a little bit more advanced options there as well. So we can answer or hang up on a phone call. We've got a volume rocker. We can seek, we can change between presets, things like that. And we've also got a voice command prompt. Now that command prompt is pretty cool because it gives us the option of making phone calls, navigating. We can even change the radio station using our voice, which is great. Now, if we have a phone connected through Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, we could also use either our Google Assistant or our Siri Assistant by pressing that button as well. Looking at the sticks, so left turning stick is going to exactly be for that, and it also gives us the option of adjusting what's going on with our running lamps. I always just recommend keeping it in the auto setting because the vehicle's automatically going to adjust the brightness of the actual lights themselves, so it's going to switch us between the daytime versus nighttime running lamps, just depending on how bright it is outside. And then the one off to the right hand side is going to let us adjust what's going on with our front as well as our rear wiper. So very straightforward there. And we're going to pull in towards us to get that front windshield wiper fluid going. We're going to push away in order to get the one for the back. So really, really nice. But like I said, I am blown away by how nice this cluster screen looks. Like I said, fully digital, stretched across the entire length of the vehicle. Kia, like you guys did an incredible job on this digital display. I absolutely love it. Now, one thing to note, this thing is going to be push button start, and it's push button start across the entire vehicle lineup. Doesn't matter which trim level of the vehicle that you get, but it is nice to know that we've got that option. So taking a look, the actual media screen has a ton of options and a ton of flexibility as well. Now, this is a 12.3 inch screen, and it is going to be standard, as I was mentioning earlier, in some of the higher trim levels of the vehicle. The base LX models will not have this larger screen, but you still do have an 8-inch media screen, which does still support Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And that's one of the cool things, because this thing does have factory navigation, but if you wanted to use Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze, we can do it directly through this middle screen. We've got some voice memos, and we've even got some interesting ones, like an optional passenger view. So we can literally see what's going on behind us, which I think that is such a crazy feature. Like growing up, I come from a family with 9 kids. So my family was a Ford family growing up. They had a Ford Expedition, Ford Windstar, and we needed the space. But in order to kind of see what was going on behind us, my parents literally had to turn their head back and scream at us. But now you can literally see exactly what's going on behind you because of a camera that's placed just right at the top here. So that, I think, is a brilliant design feature on Kia's part. So again, great job on that one, and it is very, very unique. We've got some sounds of nature and a few other things inside of this screen as well. And as I said, if you're looking for a more in-depth walk around, check down below because I've put together a video specifically on this media screen and how it all works. Down a little bit more, we've got a volume rocker. We've got our tuning rocker, which the tuning rocker, honestly, because we can tune using our voice, unless it's going to be the passenger tuning, just use your voice instead. So it's kind of neat that we've got that option. And then we've got a series of different button presses in order to jump between each screen. And this is kind of cool because it's like a tactile, it's not a tactile button, it's literally like a little push button. And like, it's kind of neat what Kia's decided to do with this thing. I think it looks absolutely stunning. As we start to move down, we've got our front and rear window defroster, and we've got dual zone climate control inside of the front, and then we've got a tri-zone, so the people in the back also have the flexibility of being able to control what's going on with the cabin control temperature. So I think that's kind of a neat one. Now, we do have the option, like I said, to change the radio stations and things like that from here. In the back, they've also got that option, but we can disable that back switch if we wanted to, so that we're not kind of fighting between everybody. And that's the same way with the climate control settings there. So in the front, we do have the option of locking out that back climate as well, and we can adjust it as we want to, just in case the people in the back are fighting a tiny little bit. Moving down, we've got our basics for our climate control. Again, touchscreen, and it looks really sharp as well. Moving down, we've got a few USB power points. Well, I should say more than a few. We've got 3 of them in the front here. We've got a few of them strictly for power, and then another one for USB if we're hooking up for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Down a little bit more, there is a wireless charging pad. So if your phone supports wireless charging, you are set to go. Now down a tiny little bit more, we've got our shifter knob, park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then we've got our manual mode again, just by switching it over as we're in the drive mode. And what that's going to do, it gives us the option of jumping in between gears as we go. Down a little bit more, we've got a series of different drive modes. So we've got our Eco, Sport, Smart, and then back to a normal mode again. And each mode is going to do something different. Now, one of the things that I do recommend is trying it out in the Sport mode. And the reason why is because that's going to hold onto the gears a little bit longer. And what I mean by that, the RPMs are going to go higher, which means that it gives you an infinitely sportier performance inside of the vehicle. And that's going to be the same. I always recommend that whether it's a naturally aspirated, so a non-turboed versus a turbocharged engine, when you're in Sport mode, it changes around the entire dynamics of the ride itself. As we start to move down, we've got our electronic parking brake as well. So parking brake, very straightforward. We're literally just going to pull up in order to turn the parking brake on. We're going to hit the brake, the pedal, and then we're going to push that down in order to turn the parking brake off. We've also got an auto hold setting, which in and of itself is a neat one because if I switch into drive with the auto hold setting on, I can literally take my foot off the brake and it's going to hold the car into place. So it is a very smart setting there. So useful if you're in a lot of stop and go traffic. You can literally turn that setting on, stretch your leg out, and Bob's your uncle. Wait, Bob is my uncle. Now as we start to move down a little bit more, we do have our heated seats there, and we've also got a heated steering wheel. We've got our park sense system, so that reverse sensing system, the beeping that we get as we back up, we can turn that one on or off as well. And then there also is a button for our 360 camera, which also gives us a few different views, which is kind of neat. And it is split screen, so we're going to get that 360 view no matter what, and then we can figure out which type of view we want. So if we're getting out of tighter spaces, we can kind of move between different options there. Now, we do have a few different cup holders, and there is a phone holder as well, which I love the fact that Kia's included this because other brands do have some different options to hold the phone upright. So I love the fact that it is here inside of this vehicle as well. So definitely a nice touch. We've got a little storage tray in the back as well. And as we start to move back a little bit more, so we do have an armrest there, and there's nothing inside of here, so no power points or anything like that, but we do have quite a little bit of storage space. There are a few cup holders back there as well, so just in the back of the armrest. Now, I mentioned the passenger seat is fairly unique for the way that it's adjusted, and the reason why is because there are a series of buttons literally just on the side, so on the left-hand side of the passenger seat, so we can move that seat forwards or backwards, and then we can also use another one to move the actual backrest forwards and backwards as well. So it is kind of neat on Kia's part that they've decided to go that route. Now, as we start to move up overhead, we do have our home link up overhead there, and that is going to give us the flexibility to be able to program in a garage door opener if we've got one at home, and we do have our auto-dimming rear view mirror as well. Up overhead a bit more, we do have our basics for our cabin control lighting. We've got our tow mode, our SOS. We can figure out what's going on, whether or not the cabin lights come on when the doors are open or not. Now on top of that, we've got our visor. It does have a vanity mirror as well as a light along the very top. We've got a business card holder there as well, but we can also extend this out a tiny little bit if we need to block some more sun. So it is kind of nice what Kia's decided to do with this thing. But let's take it out for a quick spin and see how it handles. All right, folks, now time for the fun part. Let's take this thing out for a spin and see how it handles. I'm curious what this is going to be like. All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so a couple things. This is just in the regular drive mode. So normal mode, we do have the option of going to an eco mode, a sport mode as well. So I'm actually going to change it out to the sport mode, which, I mean, firstly, to the gauges, it actually does a pretty cool look to it. Like, it gives it more like a sporty or metallic kind of look, which neat touch from Kia to include something like that. But with the sport mode engaged, that's literally just going to hang onto the gears a little bit longer, just to give you a little bit more of a sportier performance. And I'll show you what that feels like in 3, 2, and... So I'm sure you heard that RPM, so it revs the RPMs up even higher just to give you different shifting points, which it does give a very, very different feel to the actual performance of the vehicle. So I love the sport mode across the entire vehicle lineup. It is a really, really nice feature. One other cool thing is that we do have the flexibility to be able to jump into a manual mode as well. So as we're driving even, we can even shift it out on the fly. So once we're in drive, we literally just kick it over and we are now in our manual mode. So by default, it's going to help us out with the downshifting and upshifting and things like that as well. But it is nice to know that if we wanted to, we can drop down. Like, I'm in third, second right now, and like the car just goes. So something to think about there. It is nice to know that if you want a little bit more flexibility as to the gear that you're in, you can easily do that, because that's one of the cool things. Like this thing is an 8-speed automatic transmission, but we can adjust what gear we're in ourselves if we want to. And if you kind of get a little bit tired of just changing gears out yourself, you literally just flip yourself back over into drive as you're driving, and it's going to flip you back into regular drive mode, and it's going to figure out what gear you're in automatically. Now, one other cool thing, the blind spot monitoring system is also going to be available inside of this vehicle. So blind spot monitor is a neat one because it literally is going to monitor what's going on beside us. Oh, so nice. It literally takes that blind spot system, the base system that just highlights, and it pretty much like takes it to the next level. It is such a great feature. And speaking of which, so is this adaptive, so that smart cruise control system. I've literally got it set to the speed limit on the street here, and the car is going slower than the posted speed, and it's just because the car in front of me is also going a little bit slower as well. So we've got a distance indicator, lets us know how close or how far we are away from the vehicle that's in front of us, and we've got a smart follow system right now. So vehicle itself is literally like hands off the wheel, it's keeping me balanced in my lane as well, and it's slowing me down even more, like I'm going 40, slowing down more and more, and like I said, like hands off the wheel, it's slowing me down completely, bringing me down to a complete stop, and it's literally guiding me as I go. Like, this is such a great system. Now, one thing to note, you can't keep your hands off the wheel for long, because you will get a message on the screen letting you know to put your hands back on the wheel. So it is a base safety setting. Again, just in case you lose focus on the road for a brief second, the vehicle is going to let us know, hey, don't keep your hands off the wheel for too long. So it's not self-driving, but by the looks of this technology, I think that's exactly where this is going to go. It eventually will be a fully self-driving car, which I think that would be such a crazy thing to see inside of this vehicle. But same idea, like local speed limit 60, car in front of me going 60, hands technically hovering over the wheel right now, but it's keeping me perfectly balanced between my lanes. We can easily turn that system off as well if we want to. So that's one of the nice things. We can easily adjust whatever safety settings that we want to and what systems we want to have engaged as we go. Okay, we're gonna punch it a little bit in 3, 2, and that's just one of the beautiful things with the naturally aspirated in sport mode. Like, it's so nice. Like, so you don't have to worry about that turbo spooling up like you would inside of turbocharged vehicles, because you put your foot down, it takes a second for the turbo to spool, and then you go. But that's one of the interesting things about turboed versus non-turboed engines. You're gonna have way more torque typically in a turbocharged engine than you will in a naturally aspirated. But I mean, it's at what sacrifice? So turbocharged engines typically are gonna be slightly better on fuel economy depending on the engine size, with a similar output to a naturally aspirated. So, I mean, which one you go with is going to be a matter of personal preference, but like I said, I am very surprised at all of the features that are inside of the Carnival. So crazy, so crazy. Well, folks, that was a look at the 2022 Kia Carnival. What did you think? Spacing-wise, this thing is surprisingly nice. There are quite a few options that are packed inside of this at a crazy competitive price point as well. But personally, the sizing I don't necessarily need myself, but if I did, like looking at my parents, I came from a family with 9 kids, so if they needed the space, like this would definitely have been on their radar back in the day. But if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your social networks. If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. And until I see you next time, take care. Pull it. Pull it. We have a few other bottle holders there, but we'll get to that in a second, because we do